What if everything you ever wanted still wasn't enough? Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a dark room. No sound, no movement, just silence. And in the middle of that silence, a small flame. A boy sits in front of it. He does not speak. He does not move. He only watches. The flame is small, but it dances. It moves like it is alive. The light touches his face. His eyes reflect it deep and focused. There is something strange about the way he looks at it. Not like a child looking at fire, but like someone searching for something. Something he cannot name. The flame grows a little, then becomes calm again. But inside the boy, something else is growing. A feeling. A quiet voice that whispers, "This is not enough." He does not understand it yet. He has a home, a family, a future waiting for him. But still, something feels missing. And the truth is, most people never notice this moment in their life. That small, silent beginning when something inside them starts to burn. Not loudly, not clearly, just enough to stay hidden. Because one day that small flame can become something much bigger. And when it doesn't just give light. Sometimes it takes everything. The boy grew up, but the feeling never left. As the years passed, his world became louder. People talked, teachers spoke. Stories filled his ears. Stories of great kings, men who built empires, men who changed the world. Everyone listened with excitement, then returned to their normal lives. But not him. He stayed quiet, because every story felt personal, like it was calling him. Other boys were happy with simple dreams, a good life, a safe future, a small place in the world. But for him, those dreams felt too small, and that quiet voice inside him, it became stronger. You are meant for more. But what is more? He didn't know. That was the problem. He could feel it, but he could not understand it. And that feeling, it can be dangerous. Because when you don't know what you are chasing, you start chasing everything. More success, more recognition, more victories, hoping that one of them will finally feel like enough. But it never does. And slowly, without realizing, the flame inside him grew stronger, warmer, brighter, harder to ignore. Because the truth is, the moment you start believing you are meant for more, you also start risking everything you already have. The boy had a name, Alexander. Not just any boy, a prince. He lived in a palace filled with gold, guards, and power. People bowed when he walked. Servants listened before he even spoke. From the outside, his life looked perfect. But inside, nothing felt simple. His father was a great king, strong, fearless, always winning. People spoke his name with respect, even fear. And every time Alexander heard those stories, the fire inside him moved. Not with pride, but with pressure. Because deep down, he felt one question: will I ever be enough? His mother was different, intense, emotional, full of belief. She told him he was special, that he was meant for greatness, that he was not like others. And those words, they didn't calm him. They made the fire stronger. Because now, he didn't just want more. He felt like he had to become more. So there he was, a prince with everything. And yet, a boy carrying something heavy inside. Expectations from his father, dreams from his mother, and a quiet voice inside him that never stopped. The flame was no longer small. Now, it was clear, burning in his thoughts, burning in his chest. And the truth is, sometimes the people who have the most feel the most pressure to become even more. Alexander did not wait. He acted. If the fire inside him wanted more, he would give it more. He trained harder than anyone. He woke up earlier. He pushed his body until it hurt. Every day was a test. Every moment was a chance to prove something, to his father, to his people, but most of all to himself. He learned to fight, to lead, to win, and slowly, he started to succeed. People noticed him. They whispered his name. But something strange kept happening. Every time he won, the feeling did not stay. The excitement faded quickly, and the fire, it only grew bigger. So he tried again. More effort, more pressure, more victories. But the result stayed the same. For a short moment, he felt powerful, then again empty, like trying to fill a cup with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much he poured, it was never enough. But he didn't stop, because stopping felt like failure, and the fear of being not enough was stronger than the pain. So he kept going, faster, harder, further. Without realizing, he was not controlling the fire anymore. The fire was controlling him. Then one day, everything changed. Alexander faced a real challenge, not practice, not training, a real moment, a test in front of others. And this time, he didn't fail. He won. The crowd reacted instantly. Voices rose. People cheered. His name echoed in the air. For the first time, he felt it. Recognition, respect, power. This was what he wanted, right? This was the feeling he had been chasing. And for a moment, it felt perfect. Like everything finally made sense. But only for a moment. Because soon, something unexpected happened. The noise faded. The people left. The moment passed. And he was alone again, with the same feeling, that quiet emptiness. And the fire? It did not calm down. It burned even stronger, as if it was saying, "This is not enough. Not yet." That's when the truth slowly appeared. What he expected? Victory will bring peace. What he felt? Victory only created more hunger. And this is where many people get trapped, because once you taste success, you don't feel satisfied. You feel addicted. The fire inside Alexander was no longer small. It was alive. It moved with him. It grew with every step he took. When he trained, it burned. When he won, it exploded. When he rested, it whispered. It never stopped. At first, it felt like a gift. The fire gave him energy, courage, strength that others did not have. While others got tired, he kept going. While others stopped, he pushed further. People admired him. They saw his power, but they could not see the cost. Because slowly, the fire started taking things too. It took his rest. Even when his body was tired, his mind refused to stop. It took his peace. Silence no longer felt calm. It felt heavy. It took his connection. While others laughed and lived, he stayed focused on more. And in quiet moments, the fire created shadows, doubt, pressure, fear of losing everything he had built. And the more it grew, the more it demanded. More victories, more success, more proof. It was never satisfied. And Alexander? He started believing this was normal, that this is what greatness feels like. But the truth was, this was no longer just ambition. This was obsession. A fire that never sleeps does not just light your path, it slowly burns your life. One day someone noticed, not the victories, not the strength, but the fire. A teacher, a man of wisdom. He watched Alexander closely, not how he fought, but how he thought. And one day he spoke, calmly, simply. "Alexander, what you have inside you is powerful. Alexander listened because for once, someone was not praising him. The teacher continued, "Fire can warm you. It can guide you in the dark." Then he paused. "And it can also destroy everything if you don't control it." The words were simple, but they stayed. For a moment, Alexander felt it. A small doubt. A question. Was the fire helping him or hurting him? But the feeling did not last because the louder voice returned, the one he knew well. "You are not done yet. You need more. You must become greater." So he nodded, but only halfway. He heard the warning, but he did not accept it, because deep inside, he still believed one thing. Just one more victory and I will finally feel complete. And that belief would cost him everything. Alexander did not stop. One victory became two became 10. Then, it became something bigger. Cities fell before him. Armies stepped back. His name traveled faster than the wind. People started calling him great, a legend, a king of kings. Everywhere he went, he won. Maps changed, borders disappeared. The world slowly bent in his direction. And the fire? It was no longer inside him. Now it was everywhere. It burned across lands, across cities, across everything he touched. At night, the fires of war filled the sky, orange light endless and restless. It looked powerful, but also dangerous. And something else was changing. Alexander was no longer the same boy. His eyes, once full of wonder, now looked tired, heavy. Because while the world saw his victories, they could not see what he was losing. He lost quiet moments. He lost simple joy. He lost himself in the noise of more. And still he kept going, because stopping now felt impossible. The fire had grown too big. It no longer asked. It demanded. More land, more power, more proof. And in one silent moment, if someone looked closely, they would see it. The fire was not just around him anymore. It was starting to burn parts of him, too. Slowly, quietly, from the inside. Because sometimes, the biggest victories in the world hide the deepest losses within. Alexander did not stop. One victory became two became 10. Then it became something bigger. Cities fell before him. Armies stepped back. His name traveled faster than the wind. People started calling him great, a legend, a king of kings. Everywhere he went, he won. Maps changed. Borders disappeared. The world slowly bent in his direction. And the fire? It was no longer inside him. Now it was everywhere. It burned across lands, across cities, across everything he touched. At night, the fires of war filled the sky, orange light endless and restless. It looked powerful, but also dangerous, and something else was changing. Alexander was no longer the same boy. His eyes, once full of wonder, now looked tired, heavy, because while the world saw his victories, they could not see what he was losing. He lost quiet moments. He lost simple joy. He lost himself in the noise of more, and still he kept going, because stopping now felt impossible. The fire had grown too big. It no longer asked. It demanded more land, more power, more proof. And in one silent moment, if someone looked closely, they would see it. The fire was not just around him anymore. It was starting to burn parts of him too, slowly, quietly, from the inside. Because sometimes the biggest victories in the world hide the deepest losses within. That night, something inside Alexander became still. Not the world around him, not his army, but his mind. For the first time, the fire did not shout. It only flickered, soft, quiet. And in that silence, he understood. The fire was never the enemy, but it was never meant to grow forever. It was meant to guide, not to control. And he had let it grow too far. He had fed it with every victory, every success, every moment he chose more over meaning. And now he felt the cost. Not in gold, not in land, but inside. A deep emptiness, the kind that no victory can fill. Because when more becomes your only goal, you forget to ask one simple question. Why? Why am I doing this? What am I really chasing? And without that answer, the journey never ends. It only repeats, over and over again. Alexander looked at the fire, this time not with desire, but with understanding. And slowly, something inside him began to change, not outside, but within. Now pause for a moment and think about your own life, not as a story of a king, but as your own story. Because maybe you are not fighting battles, you are not conquering lands, but you are still chasing something. More success, more approval, more progress. Always moving, always doing, but rarely stopping to ask, why? The truth is, most people don't notice the fire inside them. At first, it feels like motivation, a good thing, something that pushes you forward. But slowly, it becomes something else. It becomes pressure, fear, a constant feeling of not enough. And just like Alexander, you keep going, thinking the next step will fix everything, the next win, the next goal. But it never does. Because the problem is not outside, it is inside. The fire is not bad, but if you never question it, it will grow without limit. And one day, you may look back and realize you spent your whole life chasing without ever feeling complete. So what should you do? Stop the fire? No, that is not the answer. Because the fire is also your strength. It gives you energy, purpose, the ability to grow. But you must learn to control it, not feed it endlessly. Sometimes you need to pause, not because you are weak, but because you are aware. Pause and ask yourself, is this enough for now? Learn to feel your progress, not just chase the next step. Learn to enjoy the moment, not just rush to the future. Because if you always live in what's next, you will never live in what is. And most importantly, decide your own enough. Not what others expect, not what the world shows, but what truly gives you peace. Because ambition without control becomes destruction, but ambition with awareness becomes power. Now return to the beginning, the dark room, the silence, and the small flame. But this time, you see it differently. It is not just a flame, it is a choice. Inside every person, there is a fire, a desire to grow, to become more, to achieve something meaningful. And that is beautiful. But only if you understand it, because the same fire that can guide you in the dark can also burn everything if you let it grow without limit. So don't be afraid of your fire, but don't ignore it either. Watch it, understand it, control it, because in the end, it is not about how far you go. It is about who you become along the way. And always remember, the fire inside you can light your path or burn your life. The choice is yours.